Also, if you just need to like bounce like right after the show,
Yeah, I'm going to probably. I might be able to stick around on Discord just on voice for a bit. But yeah, I need to throw in a batch of cookies.
oh, is that what?
No. I have to throw in a batch of cookies, and then after that's done, because that only takes like 15 minutes, then I'm leaving.
With cookies.
With cookies, of course.
I'm kind of jealous whoever's getting cookies.
I sent you a bunch of pictures
Of cookies.
of cookies in progress. The actual end result didn't turn out as good as I was hoping. But this is the first time I've ever made cookies here, so I'm a little bit lenient. Apparently, last few days have been a little bit active on Twitter here.
Pretty great.
I also have tweet ready to go, so we should be good to go as soon as you are.
Should be good. Might want to send the tweet out.
I send the tweet when you start announcing the date.
Well, hello. All right. Well, if that's the case.
That's the case.
Back over here then and start clicking buttons. All right, big sip of that coffee. Let's Today is March 16th, 2018. This is episode 72 of Maelstrom Radio.
Maelstrom Radio. With your hosts, Flatus and Shinder.
And welcome everybody to Maelstrom Radio. My name is Flatus. With me, this host likes D's and B's. It's Shin. No?
All right.
You don't like D's and B's? Donuts in boxes.
I mean, I have a whole plate of cookies in the other room, so...
You like C's and P's?
Not gonna answer this.
So, welcome to Maelstrom Radio. If you've never been to the show before, welcome. If you have been to the show, I'm sorry.
Yep, that's... Yep.
Alright. It's about right. Well, we got a ton of stuff to talk about, so I'm not going to waste any time here. Let's jump right into the news. The Feast Season 7 has started with patch 4.25. If you've not seen all the little goodies you can get, I would suggest go getting it. There may be a certain professor's chair that you can get for coming in top gold rank in the Feast. And now that Feast can have teams, I want to start an Umbra PvP team, so maybe we get on that. That would be great. Get on the mix. No?
Hey, you can go for an Umbra PvP team.
You don't want it?
I'm not so sure on this whole PvP thing still.
I mean, the team would be better, right? Like, do you think I like, because randomly you can't now you can like queue as a group of people you trust.
Well, yeah, but the thing is that I need a group that I would actually be able to trust, because, as the healer, I am the first one to get focus targeted and everyone kills me.
I got you, baby. It's cool.
Yeah, that hasn't worked when we've gone into our random groups. I die.
That's because of the other people.
Says our tank. Sure, it's the DPS's fault.
It is. I just soaked the damage. I can't do it.
No, I'm pretty sure I was soaking up the damage at that point.
Don't judge me. I'm good at what I do.
Well, yes, but you can't control the other people. Our opponents are also good at what they do, and what they do is kill people.
I feel very attacked right now. This is not a safe place.
This has never been a safe place.
That's true. Hatching Tide. Speaking of safe places. That's not working. That's not a good segue. Speaking of hatching, I don't know. All right. Anyway, Hatching Tides starts on 3/20 and it goes to April 2nd. I want to read the little things. It actually sounds interesting. Chili and Chat, I bet you're missing me now. All right. This season's Hatching Tide is upon us once more. Crowds of merrymakers descend upon Gridania, so now we know it's starting. Dreams of decorating eggs dancing in their heads, but more than any other, it is Gili Aliopo's dream, a vision blessed by the 12 Archons, which will chart the course of this year's celebrations. Adventurers are encouraged to lend a hand in the festival preparations, but who better to handle the unexpected? So I don't know. So far this year, the events have been buenissimo. They've been really good this year so far.
They have been, but so far that entire description, the only thing that I've taken away from it now is I kind of really want gingerbread.
What? When did I say ginger?
You didn't, but with the whole visions of thing.
All right, vision. I got it. I know you're going.
Nutcracker suite.
Yeah.
Or not from Nutcracker, sorry. That's the night before Christmas.
Speaking of optional, optional item.
Speaking of trash,
yes, oh god. Speaking of optional items, optional item Torn Manderville attire is now on the Mog Station. So now you too can look like you just blew yourself up by a bomb trying to solve a mystery. I kind of want this. It's almost worth the $12.
I don't really see the allure. Like, we have the butler outfit, we have nice fancy clothes. Why do you want to look like you're a homeless zombie?
Why wouldn't you? Like, you just answered all those questions, especially the last one. Why wouldn't you want to look like a homeless zombie? Now my dreams can come true.
You have very weird dreams.
I just want to be a hobo. drinking, jumping on trains. I can do that now. There's a train in the game. I can do it. Riding the rail.
You're not wrong, and that, yeah.
All right.
Speaking of hobos.
Yeah, speaking. That was just bad segue day. All right. Speaking of hobos, Final Fantasy 14 it'll be at PAX East. Oh, are you just saying that's where all the hobos are? East. Yeah. So not unexpected. So, like all the previous years, Final Fantasy 14 goes to PAX, and Final Fantasy 14 will be at PAX East again this year. Attendees to the panel will also receive a mini double-sided poster. You get the Rabanastra on one side and the Final Fantasy Patch 4.2 art on the other. To me, that Rabanastra poster is actually also pretty hot. Also, attendees, if they want to try the challenge, the roar, the right, the rage, form a party of adventurers to tackle Byaku of the Four Lords in the final in a classic Final Fantasy 14 battle challenge. And if you can prove yourself, yes, ye of little faith, random folks, gather your group and see if you too can don the I Beat Byaku shirt. Boy, I wish we can get
taken a different way when that one.
Uh-huh. Is it okay?
Yeah, we'll leave it there.
Yeah, just
so Kane in chat had an idea. He wants to know if you'd be willing to dye your hair ginger for extra life. See, bear.
Not with my job, unfortunately. Not that I don't think they'd be against it. I just I can't.
They have something against gingers?
No. Gingers are lovely. I mean, yeah. Gingers, what's wrong? Don't blame. All right. Anyway, community news. Big happy birthday to Sarah Timona of Phoenix Down Radio. It's his birthday today. Big birthday boy.
Happy birthday, Sarah.
Yeah, happy your name days. All your name days. All your name days are here. All your
They didn't come all at once, hopefully.
Well, they did if Phoenix, Maelstrom Radio's live on his birthday is on Maelstrom Radio Day, not on Phoenix Sound Radio Day. Which means
true.
He can eat cake and watch us, which is probably the best way to watch us. Or drunk.
Yeah. Or both. You can both have a drink and eat cake at the same time.
I have a better
depending
option.
Depending on how many drinks you've had, eating the cake might get really messy, but it's cake.
Can we have rum cake? Because that'll just two birds, one stone. Especially if you do it like Cuban style, where it's just like soaked with rum.
There's no cake. It's
just rum. All right. Well, let's stop.
Also, on that note, happy birthday, Ockmorn, from the whole community to you.
Yeah, happy birthday, Ockmorn. Happy birthday, wherever she is. Oh, she's gonna kill us. Anyway, let's jump right into tonight's topic because we do have a lot to talk about with this, especially the newest and hottest content. Eureka dropped this week, and Shin and I jumped in to try that old school flavor meets new school style of content mixed in with our AF gear and our getting our relic gear and relic weapon. And
now,
not only that, I was gonna say, tied it in with a little bit of an interesting story. So go ahead, Shin.
Yeah, I was just gonna preface all of this with we've only done a little bit of this content. We've only got to, at least I've only got to level 3 in this, so we aren't terribly far in the actual content itself. Most of what we're going to kind of revolve around today is going to be like initial experiences with it, what we see happening, what we've seen from the community, and how we kind of see what this is going to mean for Final Fantasy going forward. Not so much what is the current content, what's the meta, what's the end game, how are people behaving in it. By the way, you can get a T-Rex, get a dinosaur. It's good content. You should go do it.
Yeah, a lot of glamour in there. Glamours. I heard glamour's end game.
Dinosaur.
Dinosaurs.
And those minions.
Yo, though, the little minion's got the floats and it's got teeth on its underside.
And the one has like 2 clubs.
Oh yeah, it's got double clubs. I call him Clubby. Listen, I have a terrible joke and I can't say it. I won't will myself to say it. I want to say it, but I know there is that like wall of like hate that that if you said the thing
that would maybe leave that for like post show.
Sure, I'll tell you after the show because you'll be like, oh no.
Anyway, I know we have lots of content, little time. So what are your first thoughts on Eureka, content-wise?
Content-wise, I think, all right, so I know a lot of people are like, well, there's not a lot there. There's not a lot of meat there. I don't think that's true. I just think it's a different style of meat.
What sort of meat are you talking now here? Because, like I was playing another game earlier this week, and the first thing that I got was a piece of meat.
A chunk of meat, so yeah. We're used to this being this spoon-fed of instant gratification in this game, right? Like it's click a button, go to this thing, you're in this thing, and you get levels like super fast, like Palace of the Dead. You do 10 things, but they go relatively quickly, right? Like in a Palace of the Dead run, right? You can just rerun the first 10 floors. They go really fast. You'll get your like a good farming amount of XP. You can just keep doing that. It's a good solid route. You can, I mean, it's still longer, but you can do a one of the new like MSQ dailies, and that'll net you a whole level. I mean, yeah, it's like 40 minutes of your time, but it nets you a whole level. Like here, it's a different leveling system. It's slow, but not in a bad way. I don't think it's slow in a bad way. I think it's slow in the sense like if you did it solo, it's not going to benefit the player. It's like it's almost telling you like, hey, if you really want to get the most out of this, you're going to have to talk to people and say, hey, how's it going? You're grouping up and killing things over here. Why don't I just let's just like join a party. And the first thing I saw there was that in a long time, and something I haven't seen this game in a long time, or any MMO really long time, was people in chat saying, hey, looking for party, come join this. I'm at this level. And I was just, my mind was blown that people were interacting, socializing, joining parties to do this content.
We have hunts.
All right.
Hunt spawns. Everyone goes, invite me, invite me, invite me.
Yeah, but I mean, that's all. But that's all they barely. I give you a little bit, but it's not that. It's not like that though. Like I think people are actually chatting and talking and trying to like strategize and like, hey, where do you want to go next? And like,
there's strategy. I'm hoping there's some strategy up in the higher levels. I have seen a little bit more complicated content, but so far it's been press button, kill, press button, kill. Hope that you get the 8 on time.
Well, I think as it goes up, right? I mean, I could be wrong. I know there's like Para in chat. Yeah, I've been doing this for 3 days and I hate myself. Level 15 so far. I love it really. See, look, and like that's gonna be one of those things where it's like the old school, like that old school content feeling. I've been at this for like 3 or 4 days. But you're getting somewhere. You're recouping something for it. You're getting something in return. You're working towards something. That I feel like I don't know. I dig it. I'm digging it so far. So that's what I feel content wise. What about you?
I think it's really interesting, the content. I think it's a little bit new still. I think there's we'll talk about the potential later, but I know that for right now, most of it seems pretty bland. I know that like a lot of at least the non notorious monsters that are there, just the regular spawns that are there, feel fairly boring. There's nothing too exciting. You pull them, you kill them. There's nothing that's really involved here. Even when we're looking at pathing and stuff, like when we were playing there that night, we were kind of running through stuff that was way, way above us, but there wasn't really too much risk there. I know that you ended up dying at that point, but we were able to run through a lot of stuff without alerting them, which, I mean, I like the idea behind that, but it just felt really, really easy compared to what it could have been. Like there was no real need to be afraid that everything was so powerful at where we were.
Well,
There were like, if you paid attention and kind of watched how things went, like we could easily go around and do things. Like there wasn't that much, and this is a lot more towards the lower levels. So I don't like in that sense. I don't think that they've really done a lot
in a group.
No,
So-
even outside of a group, I've seen people that were not that high that have explored the whole map.
I don't know. Well, you mean walking around, but like I got punched in the back by a rock golem, and that did not end well for me.
Oh yeah, if you get hit or if you get seen, you're screwed. You're gonna die. But
Oh yeah, I died.
if you can avoid things. Yes, you did. If you can avoid things, it seems pretty okay. And I'm not sure if I completely agree with that necessarily. There should be areas that are dangerous that you have to be wary of, that you can't go into until you're powerful enough, and being able to immediately go everywhere kind of defeats the purpose there. I also feel like there's a lot more room to, like, we have this elemental level and we have this different abilities and different power-ups, but and it does help, like if you're stronger against certain enemies, you do a little bit more damage and things die faster, but it feels like they haven't really explored the system yet, and they're just kind of starting with things. So I really hope that they keep improving on this. Like it's a very, very basic system right now. It's not very impressive, but I do think that there's a lot of potential. And I know, like when we were talking about it when we were playing, we were noticing like there's different weather patterns, and those are really cool. So what about stuff like dynamic spawns based on the weather, or weather conditions that affect players? Like for example, there's the whirlwinds everywhere and they don't do anything. But if they were like some of the whirlwinds in Bismarck, for example, they knocked you up and like moved you out a little bit, it would add a little bit an extra level of danger, and make it feel a little bit more like a real world as opposed to just another zone.
That's true. Like I remember seeing the whirlwind, I was like, I'm gonna run into that thing. That's the first thing I'm like, I'm gonna run into it. Like I want to run into it, and it just was like, all right. I thought it, if anything, was gonna knock me up or carry me like into like a mob and drop me right into one, and be like, damn it, like, or do like damage or something like that. And I'm like, nope, just dissipated, just like, oh, which is a shame. If I felt like, God damn, they could have did something with that. That would have been cool.
Right, like they've made a lot of this towards that more old school hardcore crowd, like with experience penalties and level loss and all of those sorts of things. But then they do really, really simple things like not having their weather affect players, or keeping things far enough away that you're not in too much danger. Like there definitely needs to be a balance, but I feel like they've kind of gone at extremes on both ends, making things really, really safe, but also making things really, really difficult. And that just doesn't quite mesh well. Especially like the beginning levels should be kind of like that, but as you progress higher, it shouldn't. But it seems like that kind of is the same pattern used throughout.
I would feel like it would make, maybe not in the early areas, but like maybe later on, or like the mids, like to where those things, if weather change, like if it's raining, the monsters that are like are water based get stronger because it's raining. It's like they're getting, like, hey, all right, you're gonna really do some damage to take, but I would think also in the same advert, like the adverse is true. Like if they're stronger, you get more XP out of them, so it makes the benefit, or there's like a higher chance of getting more like protean crystals off of them. So there are things that we see as people who have played other MMOs that are like, man, they could just tweak these small things, like things, and we'll get into stuff that we've seen that people talked about on our Twitter that other MMOs have done, where they're like, man, I wish it did this. I was like, well, but I don't know. Like you're right. Like there are like missteps. Like, but that doesn't mean that it's not. It can't be added and changed in the future, because as we know, I hope as this grows, it's something that they're not just changing the gear, they're also changing the content in Eureka as we go further. So let's talk about the delivery. With I mean I'm pretty sure everyone's unlocked it. I don't want to know. I mean, I don't know. What do you feel like? I don't want to spoil too much about it. I mean, like, how do you feel? Like, I know that like the story's still continuing through as you level, so we're not going to spoil too much about it. But I think the delivery was interesting. I think it's an interesting way to deliver that story to us, and give a reason for Eureka. So I'm kind of hyped about that. It makes it like it makes the story behind like the relic weapon a little more interesting for me this time, right?
Yeah, like, I definitely like how they're presenting the story and they're giving it some ties to existing content and existing questions that we've had. So in that sense, it's really nice to see that there's like a strong lore background here. There's a strong incentive to go out and do all of this. Yeah, it kind of remains to be seen, like especially with the relic weapon and everything. We know that it's a multi-patch effort. We're going to be seeing updates for the next 3 or 4 patches until we get to 5.0 and see what the conclusion is, kind of. So we know that it's going to continue going over time. Part of me is kind of iffy. Like, I like the story that we're doing, but I kind of feel like that story shouldn't be part of this relic weapon. Like, I feel like that's something that should be open to more people. And relic weapons tend to not be like, they tend to be very grindy and not everyone ends up doing them. So I'm kind of 50-50 on that. Like, I really have interest in the story. I want to know what happens. I want to see what's involved because I really don't know a lot about the background of this.
It was deliberate to put the story, and I'm going to talk about the AF gear in delivery as well, like the diable gear in delivery. But it's deliberate. It's a reason to say, like, hey, if you really want this story and you want this gear, you might want to do this content, which is a little shitty on their part.
Right, and that's kind of what I mean more of. There needs to be some sort of separation between certain amount. I think there should at least be some separation between certain pieces of content and certain reward structures. So yes, we need to encourage people to come do Eureka, check it out, work out the bugs, improve it, figure out how it can be better and how it can be a really good piece of content. But at the same time, I don't think that we need to necessarily link that to like various pieces of rewards. Like specifically, we're locking like this lore and relic weapons and glamours behind end game excessively grindy content, which now for better or worse is a thing. But like,
I will say though, I've seen some people with like 99 animus, like 999, like stacks of like almost 1,000 animus crystals already. So I'm pretty sure there are ways to like start boosting up what you're getting.
Yeah, especially once you get to higher levels and you start doing a lot more of the notorious monsters, you will get a lot faster accumulation of all these crystals, and you'll be able to get the gear a lot faster. It's more of like, one of the things that I really liked about other games is they have a wide variety of things that you can do, and they allow you to explore the content based on what you like to do. So, for example, if I really wanted to get and even Final Fantasy has done this in the past, where like if I wanted to grind for certain parts of my relic weapon, it'd be like, hey, you can go and do this from Fates, you can go and do this from PvP, you can do this from dungeon grinding, you can do this from raids, and it gave us options to do it from a whole bunch of different avenues. However, with this, we're currently locked into you can only do this piece of content to get this stuff, and I think that's kind of a step backwards. I think that the content should be at least eventually opened up to a wide variety of places so that players aren't forced into one specific area, because we don't know what's going to happen in a year from now. If a year from now we are doing other content, there's different content, or there's less people doing Eureka, we don't know how that's going to affect anything. And considering it's a very group-oriented piece of content, it's going to be really difficult to do this if people aren't constantly running it. Yeah. Or more important, as people get up to max level and everyone's closer to level 20, then anyone who's coming in new is going to have a really hard time doing it because they can't find a group around their level, and you can't group when you have that much of a difference between levels.
I don't know if anyone's tried this yet. What's the over under on like a level 20 coming to help like a level 1 and getting like
You
zooming
don't
them
get
up?
XP and stuff from it.
The level 20 or the level 1?
I would assume both. Because the level 20 is too, you're killing stuff that's way too low for it, and the level 1 wouldn't get anything because you have an overpowered person. Yeah, 8 levels from Chili.
All right, 8 levels. That's not too bad though. 8 levels is pretty decent.
But you would get reduced XP at that as well, I believe. But even at 8 levels, at a year from now, most people who have started right now will be at
They're
level
not,
20.
yeah, they're 20,
and then
yeah. So
that's what I'm saying. Like in a year, anyone who starts the content brand new is going to be at a severe disadvantage and not be able to experience it.
all right, so real quick, I do want to touch on the AF gear. I do agree with you. I think that locking it behind the content was a little shitty, like just for the dyeable aspect of the gear, because there are people that are like, fuck, now I have to do this. And like we said, we have plenty of friends in the RP community that love the dyeable AF gear for the reasons of, you know, RP. But my issue is with the stat item level numbers and stuff. You could tell like this was supposed to be in 4.1, and they didn't take that in consideration and adjusted the stat weights for a 4.25 drop, which kind of is a little, that's an oversight. But at the same time, like I do find it interesting that we're getting relic gear. Like that gear should change and grow and start looking cool and maybe glowy and stuff like that. Like that interests me. Like I hope that changes and grows, and I hope that they make the stat weights better in the next patch drop. To me, I feel like they can even do a fix with the damn item level, honestly, and bump it up and bump up the stats and all the gear. Because to me, I think that would make it a little more worthwhile for people. Because it's not only just the loot boxes people were complaining about. People were complaining about the stat weights. Like, what's the point of me doing this when I can just go run Bayako and get a better weapon, or run extreme Sigmascape and get the better weapons, better arm? Like, what's the point? Now, to be fair, the flip side is like the people that are having issues running extreme Bayako, extreme Sigmascape to get those weapons, this would give you a little leg up on that content. There is the the flip side of that. I can see both sides, but I'm still gonna err on the side of they it should have been a little bit higher. Like I think a 365 item level would have been nice, or 365 at least, you know, or 360, somewhere within that, like a mesh range of like, all right, it's decent enough to get me into some content, decent enough to push me on some other things, and I still get this dope stuff. But I don't know, there's a misstep there. But let's talk about the tech behind it, because I think that the tech, oh god.
Quickly before we go to tech, I do want to make it clarify. Like, I do enjoy this content. I think it's pretty awesome. I like running this stuff. I do agree though. Like you can tell it was expected to release this content earlier. But yeah, even knowing that it should have been earlier, it should not quite be this level of content. I still am having a lot of fun with it, and I think it is really good that they've done it. And that's because of the tech that they've put into this so far.
Yeah, I agree with you. I had a blast. I was like, man, once we started rolling with the group, it was a lot of fun. To real quick, so to answer Safe in chat. So basically, if I'm not getting anything, so basically, if I'm not getting anything, if I don't go in now, Safe, I would suggest if you want to start, I would start right now, because the long term may not benefit you. And that's just saying, hey, that's even saying like looking back on all other content in this game, like people tend to move on. That's just the nature of MMOs. People don't always tend to do content when it's past its prime.
And specifically, like if you really, really, really want to farm it or do it really, really fast, you're always going to find it best when it's completely fresh. Like even if you look at resets, people do all of the reset content within the first few days. Like that's when you're going to find your alliance raids, your groups, your extreme trials. All of those are going to be done really, really fast after a reset because people want to get them done. Likewise, when new content comes out, whether it be Palace of the Dead or Eureka or a new expansion, a new patch, a new dungeon, you're always going to see people massively running those a lot for the first few days, if not first few weeks. So really, yes, now is going to be the best time, and now will always be the best time to try out new content.
Yeah.
On the other side, though, if you don't mind waiting a little bit longer, or you don't want to do it right now, I don't think you're going to completely miss out, especially if you have an FC or a number of people that are also interested in doing that content later, or will do it with you later, because you really can still do that on your own at whatever pace you want to do. You're just not going to get the massive groups and farming that you see when content's first released.
Yeah. So it really is going to be a case of, do it now, get the speed in because you'll get it right away, or wait, but you're going to have to coordinate with other people.
Yeah.
All right. So tech, the tech for this is pretty amazing. I'm liking what I'm seeing. This is a big step for Final Fantasy XIV, at least in my eyes, coming from a certain other MMO. Yeah,
so this isn't actually something that I even kind of picked up until we were having a conversation on Twitter the other day, and someone made the question, or made the, let's see here. We were talking actually with She Heals I Tank, and they mentioned that they didn't mind the grind, but think the reward should be better. The relic should be 370 at this part of the patch, in their opinion. We had some back and forth conversations on that. Around like why it might have been pushed back, and a few other people also made comments around like it really, like, I don't see why it should be pushed back. It wasn't really that much content or that different content, like it's a different leveling system and all that. So at that point I kind of sit down, I was like, when you actually think about what they released, there's a lot of content here and a lot of technology behind that.
Yeah, it wasn't something that could have been like, you could tell that it wasn't the gear that held him up. It was literally the tech that probably was like, man, because if you didn't have this go in tested or at least polished enough to where it is, it would have been not good. It would have been not fun. So
right.
And the go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I'm still looking for my tweet.
Oh, go ahead. All right. All right. So if you imagine the tech that went into this, the ability to have this cross. Now, it wasn't cross data center, but it was cross, at least. It was cross data center,
but only one data center.
Yeah, but still, that's a massive amount, massive, and I mean a lot of people. A lot of people in a center of gaming, PvE style gaming, that you can group, ungroup, go solo, not go solo, pick up, drop party, have a quest system in there, have offenders and all this stuff in something we haven't had in a game before like that, which is amazing. It's really cool tech that they're dropping in here. So it's not something that we've seen in the game. Yeah, it's other parts of it, like, oh, we've had dungeons and we've had, instance content. Yeah, that's cool, but not on this level with this kind of stuff in it. So I could see why they pushed it back, because I guarantee they were having issues with like the amount of people stressing it, and let's see what they could do. Like that stuff could easily break the first day. Like, the one thing I saw tweets and comments and Reddit, everyone was saying, talking about the content itself, not one person said this shit is broken. Not one person said this is not working.
Yeah, so when we were talking, I kind of broke it down. We have a new leveling system, which doesn't seem impressive, but it's pretty new considering that we have to deal with XP loss, level loss, various different leveling, different rates of leveling, all of that sort of stuff. We have the Megia system that allows us to do the whole elemental thing. That has to be factored into combat. Plus, you have to have the whole new pieces of UI, information stored around all that. We have a completely new open area. It's a massive zone. It is instanced, but it's instanced across an entire data center, not just a single server, which allows you to do a whole bunch of different things. You can queue across whatever server you are, join. You can do your, as you mentioned, the partying system. You have quest systems, combat, messaging, tells. Like, we haven't had a lot of these systems in the game before. Like, we're starting to see cross-server friends, cross-server messaging, cross-server link shells, and now we're seeing a cross-server zone or area, open world area.
Yeah, and this is something.
And it can hold lots and lots of people as well, and lots of people on screen at the same time doing combat. Like the Notorious Monsters get some crazy times, and I know like my sound just stopped at one point because there's just too many spell effects going on. And it was
Yeah,
a lot more.
all you heard was that like when you get to a crowded area, you just heard the crowded area sound, not like combat sound, which was amazing. Like, and like I think I was checking my. Now I run a 1080 and an i7 core, so my game usually runs and I'm running at 144 hertz. I'm running about 70 to 80 FPS on average, like, which is great. Like, my game is smooth, it looks amazing. I ran like 40 FPS during the NM, and it was still smooth. Like I didn't get any jitters, like no slow combat. It was just a blob of like combat light was going off. That was it. But it was pretty crazy. Like I'm pretty sure if I turned down my spell effects, my combat spell effects, it probably would have been up to 60 FPS. But I didn't notice anything. I didn't notice a drop. I didn't notice any lag. I mean, did you notice any lag when that happened, when we were fighting the NM?
No, like I definitely noticed that there was a reduction in frame rate, but like it was still really, really smooth. And like I'm running a 1080 Ti, so there really shouldn't be any issues with that. But yeah, there's just a lot going on all at once, and it was pretty stressful in the system, but it still handled it really well.
Yeah.
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and like, and speaking of the tech part of it, like a lot of this tech is something I've seen already, having come from World of Warcraft, like Wrath of the Lich King, which was, I can't. It's my green screen's behind it. Like I don't know, like 1, 2, or like it was their third expansion. So, as of many moons ago.
2009, 2010,
somewhere around there, yeah. And I mean, that's when they started sharding. Like, that's when they started their, like, hey, we can phase and do this phasing technology. And, you know, they started really ramping it up. And you know, eventually, and I said this in our tweet frame, it was amazing tech, because eventually what it did for World of Warcraft, and a lot of players even said it, hey, I'm on a smaller server, my server's dead. So what they did was that they started auto sharding smaller servers into each other without having to shut servers down. And all of a sudden you saw people in zones leveling on smaller zones. You saw people all over the world again, populating zones that were dead. It was amazing. It was the tech that I'm like, man, this could do wonders for Final Fantasy, because there are a lot of zones where there's nobody in them anymore because nobody's that level, or people are like, and you think of a new player like, I'm out here killing raptors, boop, just me, no problem. But imagine seeing like actual people out there again, and they're on different servers, but it's just blending in, and there's no phase to you, because it's like, that's just another player and I can add them as a friend. And this tech is proving that Final Fantasy is getting there, and they're close. You could tell that they're getting close.
I'm not so sure necessarily how close they are, and I guess
you know, I hope 5.0, you know, realistically 6.0.
Yeah, maybe. So I guess it kind of gets into our final topic with potential here, and particularly like we can see, or at least I'm seeing the beginnings of a lot of really interesting new technology that's bringing in here. We have massive open world zones that can support large number of players across servers that allow us to do everything that you can in normal open world, whether it's chat, or you can form parties, do quests, all that sort of stuff. And seeing that technology is now existing, even though it is fairly primitive at this point, it shows that that they are working on this sort of thing. And we've heard from in the past when they've been working on things like cross-server tells and cross-server friend requests and link shells. And we've also heard talk of cross-server FCs and other things like that. With this, I think it's one step closer, and it just kind of shows what they can do across servers with holding massive zones that can handle all this sort of stuff. So with this change, I think we're seeing the beginnings of what they can use to test and to prove that they can actually do something similar to a phasing system, like the sharding system that Warcraft does, or even a more primitive level of it, allowing us to have a whole bunch of zones that are cross-server. And it might not automatically switch between them, such as the sharding system in Warcraft, but it might allow you to switch between different ones, and they might be shared across an entire server, even if it is a manual process. And that technology is just one step closer to something that might be even more interactive or less involved, just with that auto sharding thing that allows you to kind of switch in and out of different areas. We could also see potential with this. Like, this could also lead towards having areas where the zone lines may be a little bit more blurred. So certain games, when you just kind of go to a certain area and you kind of walk through it, and it just automatically transitions you to the next zone without having a loading screen or having click through or anything. So I think that this, as a piece of content, is really, really interesting, but as a technological testing bed, which is something that players probably don't think about as often and might not pay attention to, I think it's really, really interesting to consider that angle of it as well.
Yeah. I mean, let's think about it. Like, something that She Heals I Tank dropped was that I would love to see a full like zone, right? A full PvP zone that we can go in. And they mentioned grand companies. It doesn't have to be grand companies, but WoW had this, and like I said, and I even mentioned it, like, hey, Wrath of the Lich King had something like that. I know a lot of people are like, he's always talking about Warcraft in this episode, but no, it's you got to understand, I'm using that as a basis for what is the potential. Like, you want to, Yoshi P, and I will say this, Yoshi P knows the devs at World of Warcraft. He talks to them. I think he's made mention of it recently. I think even recently he's talked to them about like sharding and like he's gone to them for questions he's had about, hey, how does this work? What do you like? And Blizzard is the very company that will always share their ideas and how their tech works. They are not like, hey, we're not sharing our secrets. They probably have certain rights to certain tech, but they're not going to shy away from like, hey, you know, if you need help with this, like, this is kind of like how we did it. A massive PvP zone is totally possible. And one thing was, I cannot, all right, jeez. And one thing which was fun for me, Wrath of the Lich King, was Wintergrasp. And Wintergrasp was an amazing zone. You had the Horde and Alliance, like every couple hours, I think it was every 4 hours, the zone would reset. And then it was a massive battle with siege weapons and everybody fighting each other. And whoever gained control of the center, like the center area, got access to the dungeon there for 4 hours. And it was great. And everybody would queue. There was 4 like elemental lords in there, and they dropped this dope mountain there. It was great. It was so much fun. And it was this thing that was like every 4 hours you'd go out there and be like, let's fight, let's hold it down. And it was great. It was just like this, and it was, even if you were on a PvE server, it still let you beat your chest and say our faction was better because we just held it down for 4 hours and like, screw you guys. But then the other faction would get all pissed off and then like bring more people out for Wintergrasp, and like it was so much fun. And it's entirely possible. And if they start looking at that stuff, people can start getting these things like these massive open PvP zones that everybody can take advantage of. And it could be grand company against grand company against grand company. And it could change, you know, or you can do it something like, hey, everybody sign up for a team, and it'd be like 2 factions, and, you know, whoever got access to like a bonus or dungeon or whatever the case is. As long as you made the time reset really reasonable, like 4 hours is really good, because if I was at work, you would notice the time change. If I was at work, the Alliance had it during the day, and the Horde had it at night. It was really funny because you tell like, and that always came up the old like, oh, the Horde's all adults. Well, so it was pretty interesting tech, and to see that here, to see like this massive zone, like this massive continent of content, oddly enough, is pretty awesome. And then I also like the idea that, all right, you can kill these mobs to unlock this NM, and then you kill this NM, and then kill these mobs and unlocks this new, and like this chain of NMs, fates, and you can and someone unlocking and dropping Fafnir. Of all Final Fantasy creatures, Fafnir just appears, and you're just like, well, gonna fight Fafnir. That's really cool. I like the idea of like these, like having the people that took the time to say, wait a minute, I can start killing this guy. Oh, it's unlocking this, and then it's like the people that started taking that time to figure out and start like looking at like, oh dude, if I start doing this and then doing this and starts unlocking, like I keep noticing I'm unlocking NM. So like imagine like once they figure it all out and they figure out the chain, and then you really start rocking, Man, there is so much potential in here. And here are some things that I think they can add. Incredibly add, right? I would love to see, like, we have these style quests every once in a while. Quests that don't give you any hints. You have to do a little bit of reading and figure it out. I would love to see some old school style MMO questing. That wouldn't be such a terrible thing. There is some of that in the game right now. If I believe in the Machinery, where you go talk to the lovely old lady, I forget her name, Matoya. Her brooms all have quests that are all very, like, you have to read it or else you're not going to find out. We just did one for Little Ladies Day. There was a quest where you had to read and get a picture. I would love to see more of those, and those can give you like the protein crystals or give you animus crystals, and let it be a long quest chain. EverQuest was a good example of this, where they had these long quest chains and quests you actually had to read what was being said and figure it out, and some of them were riddles. I would love to see that. It would make the content a little bit more than killing. I think that would be a great step up in the next section. I would also like to see we had the emergency missions. I would love to see emergency missions on that island. That'd be great. I think that would be an awesome, like, hey, emergency, like all of a sudden, like, hey, there's like this tiny, like this dinosaur heading towards such and such area, like go and stop it, and everybody works. It's kind of like a traveling fate that all of a sudden pops up, like a little bit Monster Hunter-esque, and it would be really cool. It would. I think that it's stuff that they can start adding, looking at, like, if they're like, I don't like, initially you want to put out the content, right? Like initially you want to say, all right, let's do this, put it out there for everybody and get the feedback that we need. And they made the hot fix on the loot boxes. Shuri did right. Almost all the new items from loot boxes are untradeable. If I get a duplicate orchestrion rolls, glamour items, etc., I can't share it with friends or try to make go off of them. To me, that's the worst thing about nobody's really talking about. But they made that hot fix, and all of a sudden that stuff is tradable now. It is. You can give it to your friends. You can sell it. It is totally optional now for that. See. That's what I'm saying. Like, they can make these hot fixes, they can make these changes, but they can also look at and hear what other people are saying and say, like, hey, you know, it'd be really cool if you still did like the emergency missions, if you did this, or you added old school type questing to the zone and make it not just killing. I do enjoy the partying. I enjoy that immensely. I think that's a great feature. I think the idea of making it a little bit tougher so people are actually kind of into partying is really good. Rubicon Vale from and I did want to read his because he did make a good point, because if you don't know, Ruby just is a new father, so he has a little bit less time on his hands. So I can honestly see it from his point. I'd honestly like to see something that can help benefit solo players, like a light farm key item that spits out X number of crystals when full. I'm not complaining about the grind, but an additional dynamic would be nice for all players, and that's, I think, what Shin and I potentially, that's where the potential is, would like to see, is another dynamic to this. The content is
actually,
yeah, we do. And I mean, you know, talking about guys coming from the old school, we played some old school MMOs, and they did a lot of interesting things back then. I think that would be really interesting to do here. I think Eureka is a good stepping stone to what could be very awesome content for this game. You know, I've always said, you know, introduce me to the content in YoshiP that is new and different from MMO. I have to give him credit. This is pretty new and different for a current gen MMO. I round of applause. I got to give him credit. I really do. I think they kind of knocked it out of the park, even though a lot of people may disagree with me. I think that the potential's here. Now, the question is what they do with it in the next patch. And then when they add the next step of the phase, that's when they really need to show off. They set, what they did right now is they set the pins. They look good. Now they got to knock them down. So with that being said, Shin, do you have any closing thoughts on Eureka?
I do, and this is one comment that we've made a number of times, both in this podcast, on Twitter, and elsewhere. And I wanted to clarify a little bit about referring to this as kind of more old school or hardcore content. We mentioned this a lot and kind of compare it back to stuff like EverQuest or Final Fantasy XI or other games from that era of time. But really, it's not that related. Like captures some of the elements of those games and that era, but it's really not the same. And I think it's a really important distinction to make, because a lot of people want to re-experience Final Fantasy XI. They want to re-experience EverQuest. They want to experience that old school gaming stuff. But if you really want that sort of stuff, you have to go back and play those old games, because that content, like, if you try to re-implement that exactly as you do it today, you'd have no one playing Eureka right now. Case in point, I've been back playing some older games, and I spent about 3 hours this past week playing. About 40 minutes of that was trying to figure out a name for the character creator, because my options for character creator were one of 8 different faces, which would not fly today at all in any game. Then my next hour, I started in a city, and I spent an hour wandering around the city because I couldn't figure out how to get out. There is no map, there are no directions, and I just couldn't figure it out. So I said, screw it, and decided to restart again, and had to create another name. And started in a completely different city, which I was slightly familiar with. So I managed to get out of that city, and I finally got to start killing things, because, there wasn't any quests around that were easy that I knew how to get. So I just walked out of the city and started killing things. And I could kill one thing every 2 or 3 minutes, maybe. And doing that, after a whole solid hour, I managed to just hit level 2. I have 2 spells. This is not old school content by any means. You are out there grinding and killing massive mobs of things. You are doing things fast. You have tons of abilities. You have modern UIs. You have a lot of things. It feels kind of like that older content, but it's not. And I think that's a really strong statement against, or for all of these people that really want old school mechanics. And it's no, you want to get the feeling that you had back when you first played MMOs. You don't want the really old, terrible experiences that we had back then.
He's not wrong. I also may have been hey, I'm doing a thing. I'm like, maybe I should do the thing. And I started doing the thing, and I'm just like, fuck, 8 faces. I'm like, and I started thinking like, God damn, this would not fly today. And I completely agree with my co-host and friend here, because it is not what you think it is. I mean, granted, Final Fantasy XI had way more, even for, I think, compared to EQ, Final Fantasy XI had way up on the wow, you can actually really design a character and stuff, and there were quests and but what
To be fair, if we look at timelines, EverQuest released back in 1999. Final Fantasy XI was 2002. EverQuest 2 and World of Warcraft are both 2004. Mm-hmm. So really, Final Fantasy XI is much closer in age to EverQuest 2, World of Warcraft, than it is to the original
EverQuest was one. Yeah, and even though, and also we know that EverQuest 11 was based on EQ1, but they had more time to figure out. They could look at the expansions that dropped for EQ1 and say, all right, well, that's a better, rounded game. For us, it's you know what? Just wait for the stream. Just, please look forward to it. You'll see what we're talking about maybe this weekend. It's gonna be a hell of a thing. Gonna be one hell of a thing.
That's one word.
Yeah. Woo. Oh, you know what? Before I forgot one piece of community news, and I would be such a jerk if I didn't mention it. Tomorrow is the semifinals for Blitzball. So Dylan's gonna be streaming. It'll be live here. You'll see it on our channel. So come watch. Support Balmung. Support the Blitzball teams. Support the good cause. It's all awesome.
Are the Guild Turtles still in?
Para's in chat. Para could probably answer that. But Para did. Oh, before I go, it's not being fixed until the end of the month. Para letting me know that the hot fix won't come until the end of the month for the loot boxes. So hold on to your loot boxes. Hold on. Do not open your loot boxes. I know what you're thinking. I could have a potential minion sitting in that loot box, and it doesn't have air holes. But just hold on to it. I promise you'll. No, apparently the Guild Turtles lost. But like any good, evil, rich team, they should have lost. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say cheer for whoever's against the Guild Turtles, but I guess you can't do that now. So cheer for somebody.
Yeah.
You can't cheer for the Maelstrom team anymore.
Yeah, Coben Crusher. Listen, the Bucks sad lost out in the first, but come on. Great gals. The Bucks.
They got the next time.
Next time, yeah. So my closing thoughts are that I completely agree with my co-host on this. Is that it gives you a little bit of that, a taste. It gives you a taste of the old school with new school filling, if that makes any sense. That's what I want. That's yeah, like that makes sense.
Always want a little bit of that old school filling.
Yeah, old school. I guess we got our show title, Old School Filling.
My only question about that is it custard flavored? We'll leave it at that.
The real question is it better than a boyfriend? So with that being said, speaking about being better than a boyfriend, come join us on Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh. Come join us on Gilgamesh, the Domina de Umbra in the title. FC. I have been personal on my little let's recruit all the peoples, all the flowers and sproutlets around and get them to join. And I've gotten a few people. I got a new person to join all the way up from Canada. I got another Canadian in the FC. I can't wait. Got a friend.
There's more than just us as Canadians. There's just like multiple Canadians in this FC.
There are.
They're not all. Most of the Canadians aren't living in Canada. Surprisingly.
Surprisingly, this one is though. This one is actually living in Canada. So different. I don't know. But if you are interested in joining, if you want to hang out with us, if you were just like, man, I just want to see what they're about. It's actually pretty much the same show, just not with the cameras on. Pretty much.
Much better.
Yeah. Is it? I don't think it's much better. It's probably way raunchier, honestly.
Yeah, if it's the same show without the cameras on, it's much better.
Oh, we're handsome men. No? No? Just... I guess I'm not going to get an answer.
I was going to ask for a show of hands of how many people actually watch the whole episode or just have it on in the background, but I don't want to know the answer.
Maelstrom Radio After Dark. We should do an After Dark show one day.
One day. I mean, that's really what just our FC chat is.
Yeah, it's deep dark.
You have to come to our FC chat in order to
be After Dark. Good. And that's yeah. Well, that's it. I know Shin's gotta go soon, so I don't want to hold him up anymore. He's got a cookie date. All right.
Anyways, you can find us on Fridays around 6:30 p.m. Pacific. Sometimes we'll do a little bit earlier at 6 p.m. Pacific. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher. You can find all the links for those on our blog at maelstromradio.com. They should be posted by Monday at 7 a.m. every single week for the prior week's episode. You can email us if you want to send us questions, comments, concerns, especially concerns. Show at maelstromradio.com. Both of us get that. Feel free to send us. You can join our Discord. Our links are on the website and on our Twitter, which you can find us at twitter.com/maelstrom_radio. Those links have been changed now. They lead to a text channel. You won't automatically be dropped into voice. You're welcome. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/maelstromradio, or finally here every week on Twitch. We're streaming. Well, Flatus is streaming. I show up for the show. Twitch.tv/maelstromradio.
That's it. All right. So Shin, do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Goodbye, everybody. I mean, after all of that, it's much less. It's very underwhelming.
It's okay. I promise it'll be fine. All right, well, we're gonna do this and this and bye-bye. I want to thank each and every one of you that came out, each and every one of you on Twitter that had that conversation with us this week. It's good to get the opinion of the community, because sometimes Shin and I just are on the same page with things. I think that kind of happened this week, but that's fine. I like getting differing opinions. I want to say thank you all of you, because you're all amazing. But I will leave you with this. Go run Eureka. Go find some friends, and till see swallows all. Keep listening.
Maelstrom Radio is a production of MaelstromRadio.com, Blackfire Media Productions. Final Fantasy XIV and Eorzea are trademarks of Square Enix. Opening theme provided by Benjamin Anthony James. You can find more of their music over at soundcloud.com/Ben773. Our outro is provided by Sodo. You can find more of their music over at soundcloud.com/Sodo. Views and opinions expressed on this episode are those of Maelstrom Radio and their hosts, and do not reflect the views and opinions of Square Enix. And until C swallows all, keep listening.
Fuck you, it's